Take a look at this triangle here. We're doing a special right triangle. It's 45, 45, 90. So we have a 90-degree angle. And then the other two angles are going to both be 45. Okay, so both the other two angles are 45. Again, because they have to all add up to how much? 180. So 90 and 45 would make 135, or you can think 45 and 45 would make 90. 90 plus 90 would be 180. Okay, so those angles are 45. So because we have these angles that are 45, they're the same, they're congruent. We can mark those with those little arcs, saying that these are the same. Maybe should have done it a little bit different there. When we have two angles that are the same, we then know we have two sides that are also the same. So they're the sides that are across from those. So if I look at 45 and 45, if I go across, we're looking at this bottom side, would be congruent to the one across from 45, this left side. So we're going to color code those the same colors together. So I'm going to make those ones red. Okay, because they're the same. Are these sides the legs or a leg and a hypotenuse? Yeah, they're both legs. So the legs of a 45, 45, 90 are congruent. And then the hypotenuse has to be different. Okay? Or it doesn't have to be, I guess. Yeah, otherwise it would be what? Alright, so as we work through this, we have our hypotenuse. We'll do that one in the other color. Alright, so for our legs, we have our leg and leg. And then we have our hypotenuse, which is across from that 90. Okay, and in this one, our legs are going to be our x's. So we have an x and an x. These are congruent, so they're going to match. So whatever one is, so is the other. And then this time with the hypotenuse, with the way the ratio works out with these 45 degrees, this time the hypotenuse is x times the square root of 2. Okay, again, we can show that using the Pythagorean theorem, but it's mega boring, so we're not going to. Okay, so we have two examples here. Again, we're going to go through our process because if you just write our answers, it's a little hard to follow sometimes. So our first step is always to label the sides. This one's a little bit easier to label the sides than the 30, 60, 90 because the 30, 60, 90, they were all three different. This one, you just have to know which ones are the legs and which one is the hypotenuse. So is 2 a leg or a hypotenuse? Leg. And we have another leg, which forms that 90-degree angle. And then we have our hypotenuse here. So for this leg, that's our x. The other leg is also an x. And then the hypotenuse is x times the square root of 2. So after we label the sides, all we need to do is find the hypotenuse. All right, and the hypotenuse tells us we're doing x square root of 2, or x times square root of 2. What is our x? It says x is 2. We knew our x was 2, so we're going to do 2 times the square root of 2. And today, again, we're going to throw those in our calculator. Okay, and we will have to round because square root of 2 is that irrational number. So 2 square root of 2. 2.82 hundredths or 2 and 83 hundredths? Good, 83. And that's our hypotenuse, if you want to color code that. So if we list all of our sides here, from least to greatest, what's our smallest side? 2. What's this side? 2. It's the same. Good. And then our biggest side is the hypotenuse, which is good. 2 and 83 hundredths. 2.83. Nice. Okay. If you want to color code that so you know which side goes with which, you can. All right, we have one more that we're doing because there's only really 2 examples with this type of problem. Okay, what's our first step always going to be? Label the sides. So when you do your practice, that's always going to be the first step, is to label your sides. If you're somebody who you need to draw a triangle out and label it out and actually write down those parts, take time to do that. Okay. If you're somebody who can do it in your head, that's okay. Just make sure that you're really taking your time to keep track of it all. All right, so for our sides, we have our legs. Our legs come together at the 90 degrees. So here we have our 90-degree angle. Okay, so that's our x and our x. All right, and then we have our hypotenuse across from that 90-degree angle. Okay, and that's our x square root of 3. So which one am I given this time? A leg? Nope. I just got really excited about yesterday. This is why don't like these. Okay. Square root of 2. Thank you, Harper, for giving me a weird look. Otherwise, I literally would not have caught that. All right, x square root of 2. My bad. It's confusing. All right. So x square root of 2. So which part are we given? Are we given a leg or are we given a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. So because we're given a hypotenuse for step 2, we need to solve for x. Now, some of you yesterday, or as you did the practice yesterday, you might have realized that I didn't write it out as a equation and solve it. So if I need to go through from x times the square root of 2 back to x, what am I going to do with 3? Am I going to multiply it by the square root of 2 or divide it by the square root of 2? To go back to this part. To go this way, we would multiply by square root of 2, but to go backwards, I'm going to divide by the square root of 2. So 3 divided by the square root of 2. Okay, if it helps you to write that equation out, I'm going to write it down here in my notebook just below. X square root of 2 equals 3. And then if you solve that, to undo a multiply by square root of 2, we would divide by square root of 2. So whichever way makes the most sense to you, if you can just do it straight like this, great. If you need to write the equation and solve it, that's great too. We're going to get the same answer, and we're really doing the same thing in our calculator both times. So we have 3 divided by the square root of 2. So this bottom one here, so 2 and 12 hundredths or 2 and 13 hundredths? Yeah, it's going to tell us to stay the same. So 2 and 1200ths. Yep. So whichever way makes the most sense to you. Okay, do that. All right, so then as our sides, what do we have for the smallest side? Yep, it's going to be these x's are always going to be smaller. So 2 and 1200ths. And we have 2 of the same. So 2 and 1200ths, 2 and 1200ths. And then our hypotenuse is always the longest side, and our hypotenuse this time is 3. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You gonna fill out a pass? Okay, and that would be our answers. So practice looks a lot like yesterday's practice. It is, I think it's shorter. It's 5 problems this time. So let me know what you need help with. Like I said, I know that the